never be possible. Without mass-producing illiterates and collectivists, they could never build something like this. But their goal is very, very clear. The globalists themselves call it a new world order. It's not a descriptive term, but it is what they're building. It's a global totalitarian system. And they're almost ripping off the mask at this point. They think they're so far along on the road to this that there's no way back.
And when I've talked to top globalists, off record, obviously, some of them on record, they explain, Alex, the fact that you can see it means you ought to just join us. The public would tear you apart. And they're so illiterate, we just set it up for them to fail. They did the rest. The fact that we're in control says that we should be in control. And they start quoting social Darwinistic screeds. But when you talk about it, they mass-produce collectivist illiterates that are arrogant and evil and are globalists themselves spouting slogans so you can't help but hate them, even though they're mental midgets. And then you catch yourself in a globalist perspective of them, because the hordes of these minions are dangerous, and then you're almost forced into the arms of the globalist. But I won't do that. We'll be back. But we'll talk about this paradox. Stay with us.
We're on the...
Gave medals to the NSA and others who supposedly missed 9/11. But the truth is, the communiques came through and they bare minimum stood down. And then he broke down how they've basically scrapped the entire Constitution and Bill of Rights, and how when he talks to the veterans who've been wounded, they say they did it for the Bill of Rights and Constitution and they want the Republic restored. I mean, it's good. You should see all the senators up there giving speeches against it. But instead, they lie and say, oh, it's just for Al-Qaeda. No, that's all a fraud. Our government is protecting Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and that's a fact. And all they're doing, if you look at a map of Iraq, then I've got some huge breaking gun news. Alert, alert. If you look at Ramadi that got taken over, you can notice that right next door is Syria. And so you've got part of Syria that's been taken over by the rebels, and then you've got into here part of Iraq, and that borders, what is that border? Borders Saudi Arabia, and its huge porous border with Iraq that is openly arming ISIS, that just flies the Saudi Wahhabist flag. And then they, in turn, attack Syria and are creating Islamic State, IS, out of part of Iraq and Syria, which has been the Pentagon plan from the beginning since 1991, was to weaken the state and then finally break it up with Kurds in the north, 3 parts, Al-Qaeda Wahhabist Sunnis, and then Shiites in the southeast. And Saudi Arabia basically ends up taking over this whole swath in the far south, right up into the southwest. And here's the new Islamic State. In fact, if you're a TV viewer, I'll just color it in. Islamic State's basically this whole area in yellow. And there's your new country, right into Syria. And then you've got the other states to the north and to the east. And it's a proxy war, and that's why they're saying, oh, we can't go fight them. But when they get outside the lines, when they come out of the areas where the cancer is supposed to stop, then the U.S. military will attack them when they go into the north, because they don't totally control them. They just turn them loose. When they go into the north, like Cookie Monster killing people, and I say that because he's like throwing cookies in his mouth going, oh, cookie, just killing everybody. It's like a devilish Cookie Monster. And then if they get over here into the Shiites, Iran-backed, they'll kick them out. So they just get this whole area, and they get to take over Syria and murder everybody. And then they'll be given part of Syria later, and the UN will make the other part. And the tourist area is a UN zone. It'll be a UN-held snack for the UN. So the UN gets a piece of the pie, along with NATO, to run drugs and control the oil and the pipelines there in the Mediterranean. They kick the Russians out. So they get that coastal area over here. So the UN, the globalists, get this area. And Saudi Arabia gets a piece of Iraq and of Syria. And again, the Kurds get their little goodie area, and then the Iran gets their little area. All right, let's go back to our guest, Alex Newman, Before we do that, let's get a minute or two more of Senator Rand Paul and his filibuster. Let's see if he's saying anything of import now.
Give up who we are in the process? Has it been worth it? Are you really willing to give up your liberty for security? What if the security you're getting is not even real? They said the 52 people they caught through the bulk collection program, the president's privacy, his own privacy group investigated and said not one person was captured. A possibility of one, but they already had information on him from some other source.
All right, that's enough. And what he's getting at there is, look at how Hillary had this other server and these other emails to do official business. And then, of course, all these other intelligence agencies had the information. And she just didn't care. Hell, they're giving China nuclear reactor technology to perfect their subs now. I mean, it's just total sell the country out, and that's globalism. Alex Newman has written an amazing book available at InfoWarsStore.com, Crimes of the Educators. He's going to get more into the history of it, more into where all this is going today. To understand Common Core, to understand 2 + 2 = 5, you must first understand where it all came from. We'll talk to him in a moment. Also, briefly, we're running a special through Sunday. We always have some special or not going, so it's important to listen for the specials that are on items you want. We've got 20% off Super Male and Super Female Vitality. That's got 4 days, 10 hours, and 21 minutes left. 20% off. We've got the new Prostagard that is the best prostate formula out there, bar none, at half the price of leading competitors. We've got the Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. We have just other amazing products at InfoWarsLife.com. Winter Sun, Secret 12, X2, Lung Cleanse, Colloidal Silver, Silver Bullet. We've got high-quality water filters that are gravity-fed, cut out the fluoride and glyphosates and hundreds of other chemicals. They blow away the competition in side-by-side lab test. We have all of that available at InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. We have really high-quality Wake Up America coffee that comes from southern Mexico and Chiapas. It's organic. It's my favorite type of coffee. It's one of the few things not made in America there on the site in that section, but it is America at the end of the day. So I'm all about giving those poor farmers jobs down there. So InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 888-253-3139. But as hot as Common Core is, and as people are waking up to it, now is the time to get books like Crimes of the Educators. And then just do your own YouTube or do your own Access show. I mean, become a leader. Or go donate it to the local library. Or donate to your local school. Believe me, it'll get passed around. It'll get read. And this is how we're going to win wars. Why are we at the trail behind every other industrialized nation in scores? Why do we have a decline in the power of reasoning and logic? Why is there increased death and suicide? Why is there a war on biblical religion and morality? And all the phony reforms. All right, you've got the floor pretty much for the balance of the transmission. I also want to get your take on this huge breaking news. House Democrat introduces gun registry bill. You notice the Democrats walk in lockstep like a cult. So this is ordered. Bill allows Justice Department to gather personal information on gun buyers and vendors outside of the Brady bill and to confiscate them. Representative Carol Maloney has spewed out a bunch of baloney, introducing a bill that would effectively create a firearms registry by forcing private sellers at gun shows to report sales to the Attorney General and by requiring gun show organizers to register for the Justice Department. And that means you can't give a gun to your son or daughter either, or vice versa. The bill, H.R. 2380, would also force gun organizers to provide the identities of all their vendors to the Attorney General. You like that? The legislation would call on the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Explosives to hire investigators to inspect gun shows and examine records kept by gun show operators and vendors. So it's a bunch of money to fund the harassment of gun shows that's already going on and to end private sales. It's an end of private sales or transfers and basically creates a new FFL for anybody selling guns. It co-opts you into their 1968 Gun Control Act. It's a total nightmare. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.com. Okay, Alex, a lot of breaking news today. Appreciate you holding while we go over this. We're monitoring Senator Paul's filibuster. Please continue breaking down start at the beginning, go through it, and where we currently are. It's just so premeditated.
Absolutely, it is, Alex. Thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for everything that you do. Basically, what we think we've done with this book here is a tool to blow up the globalist scheme. If this information were more widely known, the entire edifice would collapse, because all of it rests on a dumbed-down public that can't read well, that can't do math, that can't understand anything. That
It's pretty much a confession. I mean, it's all their own criminal admission. Sorry, go ahead.
That's exactly right. What we did was we used primary sources, because we didn't want to deal with our opinion or anything like that. What we did was we looked at the primary documents, the writings of John Dewey, the UNESCO manuals on how you need to teach children pornographic sex education starting at 5 years old, how you need to teach kids all over the world using the whole word method, which we know, again, doesn't work, causes actual physical brain damage. And we can show this now with modern brain scans. You can take a look at the brain of a child who has been educated with this quackery known as whole word, and you can show that there's real brain damage there. The connections between the two sides of the brain are not working properly. A kid who learned how to read using phonics will not have that problem, will be able to read anything. And so the real goal here, and we show this again using their own words, it all comes to Agenda 21 and UNESCO and creating this new world order that they call it. And actually the globalists are meeting right now at the UN Summit for Education in Korea, where they're openly telling you education is going to be a tool to create global citizens, green global citizens. And Arne Duncan uses the same rhetoric as well. He gave a speech to UNESCO where he them about how the federal government was using the schools to turn Americans into green global citizens ready for their green jobs in the green world order. And UNESCO, he called them his global partner in all of this. And Bill Gates, the primary financier of Common Core, signed a deal with UNESCO in 2004 to develop globalized education. And it all converges at this point where humanity is totally dumbed down, totally ignorant, and very easy to control, very easy to enslave, and they can't even acquire information and knowledge independently, because
and then we're just orderly euthanized by the big Watson computers, just like the veterans are now on these don't treat list, and it's just a formality. I mean, you can see it. It's all written. It's a plan. What is it like? Are you a parent?
I am, yep.
I mean, I've had children. I plan to have more children. I'm going to, as I've said, double down, bet on life, be fully committed. I'm not going to give up. My ancestors didn't. They faced amazing adversity, but they could see the adversity and deal with it. The problem is this velvet tyranny that's so creeping and wicked and sneaky and encompassing. How do you get people already in a trance who are as blind and deaf to this as Helen Keller at first, to come out of their shell and realize that you're not attacking them, trying to explain that they've been caught in a trap. You're trying to help them. Because once you realize what's really going on, it's epic. I mean, I use that word because it is. It's epic, 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 wild. I'm in a fantastic dystopian movie, but it's also utopian, and there's so much good stuff. It's not one way or the other. There's these despots that want to crap all everything. I'm sorry, that's what they're doing. And then there's people who want humanity to thrive and who love humanity. And we're just in this death battle with these people. I wish folks realize, people ask how I have so much energy. I mean, when you really read their documents and read your book, and it's just, they're so bad. And they're so creepy. And they're going to take our cars away where we can't even drive them. They're going to have forced abortion in the country under Obamacare with regulations, just like China. People say, oh, that won't happen. Yeah, and everything else wasn't going to happen either. It's all going to happen unless we start saying no. So what do we do to stop it? Where do you see all this going?
You're absolutely right, Alex. And I think, you made some key points there about waking people up. I think the facts, if people would read this book with an open mind, again, they can go to the bibliography, they can read the primary source documents themselves, and they've told us where this is all going. UNESCO, for example, several decades ago, developed what they call the World Core Curriculum. This was developed by Robert Mueller, a disciple of Alice Bailey, the founder of the Lucifer Publishing Company, who would invite these ascended master spirit.
Yeah, can't make that up. Open Luciferians. The UN's dedicated to them. They have a Lucifer chapel at the New York UN. I've been inside of it. Again, you can't even make this stuff up.
That's exactly right. And I mean, if people read Alice Bailey's book, she had an Education for the New Age, for example. She tells you we need to beat